Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gotham Chess slow run in this series. I started at 400 on chess.com and I'm climbing up the rating ladder, explaining every step of the process. This is episode 36. We have just crossed 1500. We are deep in the thicket of the intermediate level territory. I've got a couple of quick shouts before we get into the games. I'm going to try to do it all in under a minute. You all know that at the beginning of these episodes, I tell you about my next book. It's coming out in October. Bunch of you have pre-ordered it. Over 7,000 of you. We're getting signed copies available for Australia. Land Down Under. We will be sending stuff over there quite soon. And if you are a Barnes & Noble member, pay attention. You can pre-order the book for the next 3 days only and get $8 off, 25%. It's right here. Use the code PREORDER25. You have to be a Barnes & Noble member, but I'm pretty sure the membership there is 100% free. So check that out. We are getting you books in the Land Down Under. More updates to come. Please stay locked into the slow run so that you can get my updates. Also today, the Flagrant podcast, I was on that. They just posted it, so that was pretty cool. Yeah. Here we go. Guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I was really annoyed last episode. I was really, really annoyed. I don't understand how good people are at this level. It's completely ridiculous. I'm going to play another Caro-Kann. Last episode, I was completely and utterly frustrated by the type of chess that I was getting hit with. I could not believe 1500s are that good. So we have a 2 knights Caro-Kann here. Okay, today we're going to try to play a little faster, and I'm going to stop showing as much mercy. There's a lot of lines here. One of my favorite lines is to play this waiting move pawn to a6. A lot of people end up taking this, and that's just bad. The knight in front of the c-pawn in the exchange Caro-Kann pawn structure is just bad. The best move is d4, and then after that, the best waiting, are waiting moves like h3, a3, b3. Like if white plays b3 here, I will literally report them for cheating immediately. Nobody has played that against me. d4 is much more natural, and I like when we get them to play d4 because then I like to play this pin. And ultimately, what happens here is we just put all of our pawns like this on the light squares. And then we play something like knight f6, and most people go e5. And the second that they lock the center, the second they do this, we drop back and go for c5 and knight c6. And a lot of players in the advanced Caro-Kann are just bad at dealing with this type of pawn structure. So now we play c5, knight c6, and immediately the center gets destabilized for white. The knight in front of the c-pawn, unable to push forward and lock the center shut, will make white probably lose a pawn in the long run, because we can take the knight and then white will just lose all control of the center of the board. If they play h3, we have actually seen this in past slow run episodes, the bishop for white on f3 is just useless. It is completely useless. Even now, I can probably take. And the reason is I want to take like this, but then after knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes, knight e5, my king is kind of in the middle there. I'm not sure I love that. Let me just show you how utterly useless this is, even without white playing the move h3. We can just do this. White will ultimately have to take back with one of the 2 pieces, and then our play just is so easy here. Like, we get to the bishop, we get to the pawn, we can play bishop c5 or bishop e7. There are some very vague sacrificial ideas in the middle of the board, but I mean, they should never work unless the opponent is using an engine, and white has already just lost the pawn on e5. So white brought the knight back, which is actually, by the way, in How to Win at Chess Next Level, I have an entire chapter on piece play, and one of the things about knights is rerouting them, moving them backwards to move them somewhere else. But here I just think this loses a pawn. And what's actually even worse than this is that white has the opportunity to accidentally allow us to damage their structure beyond repair. Like if we play knight takes, pawn takes, we just immediately open the king. For example, queen d4, I'm going to take this without any hesitation. Maybe some hesitation, like, oh, I'm removing my only active piece from the board. Okay, now I'm not taking. I don't really have a need to take. I know knight is better than bishop. Traditional wisdom, right? Knight is better than bishop. We should probably just take. But like, just developing and castling on the next move is also totally reasonable. I don't care where you put this bishop. I don't think I can confidently tell you what's the best move. I kind of think this is the best move, but I also just want to protect against any, attack against the king. So I'm more than happy to go here. Maybe bishop d6 is the best move. I don't know. I'm going to go bishop e7. I expect rook e1, easy move, put a rook on the open file. Rook is much more active, knight is hanging. And then I'll probably take in castle, and we will just have an extra pawn. And then with our extra pawn, we will go to the queen side. Okay, bishop e2 is fine. There's no threat to this move. You can see f4 coming, but you're really not afraid of it. We castle. f4, I think, is the best move. I actually think, yeah, practically speaking, it's probably the best choice. And so now you have an interesting decision. Do you play knight c4, attacking the pawn, also threatening this, and knight c4, bishop takes, pawn takes? I think that is completely reasonable. Completely reasonable. I think knight c4 is a very reasonable move. I wouldn't go knight g6, because knight g6 invites the attack. And then you have to calculate, do you take? Do you allow the knight to get closer? Notice I'm not doing this because of my opponent's next move. I think the only two choices are here and here. Knight d7 is probably also okay, but we're up material. I want to, fight a little bit. Knight c4 or knight c6 are both good. The reason I like knight c6 is because the knight is really like in the way of the king. So I'm gonna make a decision here that I think trading the knight is actually better than maybe going there and leaving white with a strong knight in the middle. Because if we do this and then play queen b6 and bishop c5, we're just gonna have a very easy game. Like, look, my next move is quite natural. Queen b6, I apply pressure to the pawn, and PP on the PP, right? Like, put pressure on the pin piece. I mean, I think I'm just winning this here, right? Rook b1, I'm taking all the pawns. Just make sure your queen's not trapped. It doesn't look like it's getting trapped. I'm now up 2 pawns, and the whole position's about to collapse. Rook b1, I play queen c3, attacking the knight, so here's a little line. Rook b1, queen c3, rook takes b7. I can take on d4, I can take on a3. The queen got in, the king got out of danger. This is a vintage, intermediate Caro-Kann victory. Absolutely vintage. This is also how I remember 1500s playing. I played 2 people in the last 2 episodes that played unbelievably well. And I don't know if it's because people are now sniping my account or, people are... So, of course, we're just going to trade. We have 2 pawns up. And, of course, always make sure you can get back out. Or if, I just completely misremember the strength of 1500s or, other things. People took their vitamins. Yeah, I mean, wow, I almost clicked this. Can you imagine if I blundered my queen? Anyway, I see bishop f6. That improves. By the way, do you notice how I didn't even consider this move? It's a free pawn, but my brain wouldn't even register that move. Why? Well, because by playing here, white is guarding this pawn and wants to play rook there. That's what white wants, and then I'm trapped. So this was never, ever crossing my mind. Bringing my queen back and repositioning it is crossing my mind. Also, I feel like bishop f6 is just very reasonable. This is a nice way out with my queen. White will now probably have to play rook c1, and then... everything is winning, doubling up the rooks, c5, c4. If I get this pawn to c4, it's not even that I'm attacking the queen. What I'm doing with the move c4 is I'm fixing that pawn in place. It's when you don't allow a pawn to move, right? If I play a4 and c4, I fix the white pawns on dark squares, which benefits me. I also have a long-term idea to just eat like this. And if you are afraid of ever getting checkmated here, which you always have to vaguely be afraid, right? White could play f5. Hope it's clear that if white plays f5 in basically any position, we go e5. We keep it very closed, get that pawn to e4. And if you're ever afraid of getting checkmated, just trade the queens. You will never, ever, ever, ever get mated here if you trade the queens. It will be unbelievably impressive, but more than anything, really stupid of you to get checkmated here with black. Honestly, if I give you this position with black as a 1500 and I'm white, you should beat me at least 1 game out of 5. Maybe 4 games I will trick you because I'm so strong and blah, blah, blah. But you need to be able to convert winning positions, which is chapter 7 of How to Win at Chess Next Level. Chapter 6 is on attacking, unless I'm misremembering. Might be 5 and 6. At this point, my opponent might be very tilted. 1500 is the land of tilt. It's where people run into opponents that I played in the previous episodes that are just unbelievably good. I've also only been called a cheater twice in this slow run, and it's at 1500, 1480 level. So clearly, that is the level where one of my subscribers said it like this. One of my viewers said it like this. It's where you become consciously incompetent, but you become conscious. Up until that point, you're kind of you're just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks, and you can kind of limp your way and freestyle your way into 1400 on chess.com. But at 1500, that's when you're spending money on courses. That's when you're really getting aggravated with yourself over blunders. That's when you spend 2 minutes in the middle of a middle game for absolutely no reason. Let me tell you more about the book. Why not? The table of contents of How to Win at Chess Next Level are How to Make a Plan Part 1. Right, so we start with like, how do you make any plan in chess? And I explain the thought process to you. And then we revisit that in Chapter 9. So in How to Win at Chess Next Level, Chapter 1 is how to make a plan. Chapter 9 is how to make a plan Part 2, given everything that you learned. My opponent made a move. And then we fill in the gaps in the middle. So for example, this is an example of pawn play. Chapter 2 is pawn play. Pawn moves and how they affect the whole position. A lot of you would be tempted to take this for 2 rooks. Don't do that. That is utterly unnecessary right now. It is just not a thing that you need to do. I also wouldn't take this pawn. I don't want to split my structure. I'm very, happy with how it looks. You can do a sneaky move. Oh, I'm going to move away and they're not going to see that the rook is hanging. You can kind of force the queen trade. You can play like queen d4, queen c3. I want to play rook b8. The reason rook b8 doesn't quite satisfy me is because white can play pawn takes and then take my pawn. And I am feeling rather ruthless today. I don't really want to allow any counterplay to my opponent, so I'm going to play a very prophylactic move. I'm going to play pawn to a5. Prophylaxis is going into my next book. How to Win at Chess, Road to Mastery, Master Level, 1600 to 2200. a5 is simply a move. Like, in my next book, I'm giving you a sneak preview of a book that's coming out in 2 years. Prophylactics is preparing for something bad or negative. So I'm preparing, to move my rook because I saw that my pawn would be hanging. Also, a5 is something I like to call playing tennis or stewing the pot. I have a good friend, international master Alexander Ostrovsky, who likes to say, stew, you're stewing. You just stew the pot. That's it. You play tennis, you hit the ball back. That's what I'm doing. I'm hitting the ball back. My queen's hanging. Queen c3, queen d4 are probably pretty interchangeable. Let's play queen d4. We, of course, love a queen trade here because then there's no counterplay. Fixing a pawn on the same color as our bishop. We're learning endgame technique right now, right? If my opponent takes like this, we improve our structure. We never take with this pawn. Some of you might think if I take with this pawn, I have more passed pawns. Honestly, I don't hate that logic. But I want no weaknesses. I want our base of pawns to be very solid, all right? I'm terrified. The last few moves my opponent made have been exactly in 12 seconds. Several of these moves, those who know, that's never a good sign, but hopefully that's just, that's just hopefully pace of game. That move was also played in exactly 12 seconds. Uh-oh. Now I'm actually getting nervous, and it's for all the wrong reasons. So let's consider a rook trade here. Let's consider rook to b8. I don't want to take and break up my structure. If I play pawn to e5, it's probably okay, but then my pawn here might get a little bit weak, although it's probably totally reasonable. Let's trade the rook, and after rook takes, pawn takes, bishop here, attacking my pawn, I will just protect myself. If this next move is played in 12 seconds, that's a very bad sign, and that's all I'm going to say. That's very bad. But I don't think so. I think that was 3 coincidental moves. But I have had a weird experience in the 1500s. All right, G4 is strange. I don't know what G4 does. If we fix the pawn on the same color complex, then both pawns might perish. So white might play bishop to b5 or something, like bishop d1 would hang a rook, but bishop b5 would threaten this pawn. And then I would maybe play bishop c5 attacking that pawn. But we'll see. We'll see if my opponent even catches. Okay. All right. Bishop c5 was always going to be my idea here. Bishop c5, take. I should still be in good shape. No problem. So takes. We're going to trade off those 2 pawns, and then we just have a 2-pawn up endgame. And obviously, the only chance we have of drawing this endgame is the bishops being of the opposite color. So when your bishops are on opposite color, you do occasionally land in a position that is a draw. I will maybe be able to share that with you later. Maybe not. Depends on what happens here. Okay, pawn takes. We are trading. If rook takes, by the way, I think I can take with the king. Even bishop takes is interesting. Because if I take like this, this pin is just staying. Look at that. That's brutal. And since white is going to really struggle to move here, they might end up just playing bishop d3 and trading rooks with me, which is what they do. Now, rook b3 here is possible. I'm just going to trade the rooks, and take this. And of course, the best move is bishop c2. Okay, my opponent just resigns. All good. And we win. Now, I would like to show you how to actually win this endgame, all right? Because obviously that was, that there was some technique there. Now, bishop c2 on the board. By the way, I thought the game was relatively self-explanatory. Against the two knights, I like to bait my opponent into playing the move d4 with the move a6. You can add this to your toolbox. Because then what happens is white ends up locking the structure in almost all the positions, and already from the opening, black is -1. Black is just doing incredibly well. If something like rook e1, we can trade. This bishop is terrible. Bishop c5, queen goes back, and then we play castle. And our structure is just better, and the e5 pawn is very bad, and our bishop is better than their bishop. Now, let me show you how to just convert this position. So bishop c2, right? Now, in an opposite-colored bishop endgame, having a pawn majority is good, but I would like to show you that sometimes you could end up in a position where it's a draw. And this is not one of those positions, but let's say it was black to move, and let's say, something like this happened, where you traded all your pawns. This is a draw. How is that possible? How can two pawns just walking down the center be a draw? White can make a fortress on the light squares. White will basically run their king, and then when you run your pawns like this, and you look like you're just coming in here and winning the game, white will not let you. White is not going to let you push your pawn. White is going to sacrifice the bishop for your remaining two pawns. So you bring your king to c5 and try to play king d4. It's very logical, right? So something like this, and white plays king d4, and look at it, black has succeeded. But now you are stuck. Because if white just waits, you don't have a way to get this pawn to d3. If you play king c3, you can't actually play d4 because they take your other pawn. If you get blockaded on the light squares, you can't ever make progress. So you go king e5, and then you play d4, and now you're stuck. You don't have a move. So if there is enough distance between the two pawns together that are promoting and the defending king and bishop, they just cover one of the most important squares, and then you cannot make any more progress, which is why you cannot simply trade all the pawns. Okay, now you know. All right, now you know. There you go. This is the stuff that's going to get you to 2,000. The technique to win this endgame would be to play, let's say, h6, bishop a4, king f7, bishop c2. And now the major difference is if white tries to set up a blockade here, there is no blockade. Because you literally just play d3. Like, you're not afraid. You have all the pawns. This is not actually a defensive blockade. It's only a defensive blockade if those are your remaining two pawns. And then other than that, you'll go king f4, you're going to win the other pawns, you're going to win the game. So you need to keep some amount of pawns to win. Opposite colored bishop endgame. When the pawns are on opposite sides, that actually also can help the attacking side because you just, you go face one of them, and you just have to make, sure it's not the wrong A and H pawn, which we will get to. Okay. I would like to get 3 games in an episode, but it's honestly kind of hard to do that. Let's play a Scandinavian defense. These are my 2 favorite openings. If my opponent goes knight c3, it happens 90% of the time. We're going to play queen a5. And now we see, okay, white is just playing very normal. I like to play bishop f5. I think this is a little better than playing bishop g4 and pinning. The critical move is knight e5. Nobody plays this below master level. You're going to get some bishop d3. You can take, or you can just push because your queen is actually protecting your bishop. So you can just continue with development. You don't need to worry. You can take, and, they would bring their queen out. I'm going to bring my queen over like this. And, black has already equalized. Your position is already very chill. I will try to create a little imbalance here. So I'm going to try to play bishop b4 and just take this knight. Hopefully my opponent just goes for this and hangs a knight. That would be really sick, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then when we trade, we will be damaging the pawn structure slightly. We will be giving up a bishop, which is not necessarily the best thing. We will give white the open b file, but I will just show you how to play positional chess at 1500 level, Although, I mean, these people are so strong, they should be able to beat me. Like, really, that is... Okay, we're going to take. We were going to do that anyway, and now we're going to castle. If I'm white, I play rook b1 without even thinking, really. It's kind of just an easy move. Wow, queen d3. A queen trade as well. That's fascinating. Should we play an endgame? Me personally, I don't love this because this structure is worse than that one. The one where white will potentially, improve the positioning of their pieces and their pawns, especially. If queen d5, I'm going to get hit with c4. I mean, I could put my queen on the outskirts of the board. I could go back to the typical Scandinavian square. Let's keep the queen on. No queen trade, all right? White obviously has a queen pointed at our king, but we can always play pawn to h6, so no knight can come. Let's see how white handles the pawn play and the piece play. Where do the pawns go? Where do the pieces go? Okay, taking this is unpleasant, so I will reinforce like this. And my next move will be pawn to h6, not just to kick the bishop, to cover the g5 square, to cover the back rank. And then with my rooks, I'm going to centralize them. I'm going to play h6. Maybe white's going to take just like they did. Okay, they don't take. No problem. And now I think I want to put a rook in the middle, or maybe, you know, push a pawn at some point. I don't really want to go to battle with without my rooks in the middle of the board, but I think it should be okay. I mean, I don't... Let's go c5. Pawn play. Show you how to use your pawns. If pawn takes, these pawns are terrible for the remainder of the game. If pawn takes d4, then I'm improving the structure, but I'm going to build behind my c-pawn. That is probably the best move. So now there's some stuff to calculate. If knight takes, obviously knight takes. That looks safe. Maybe the bishop can come into e7. But I mean, I don't see anything there. I don't see any sacrifices here. So maybe we just continue with our plan of rook c8. Bring a rook. It's quite clear what we would like. It's kind of nice. Everything is holding everything together. If bishop takes, we just take with a knight. If knight takes, we take with a knight. We don't need to take. So keeping the tension is something that prevents people from getting to 2000. They are very, very prone to just like immediately trade the pieces if they can. And there's no need to do that. I mean, we can centralize our rooks. Just if you go here, you will be in the way of a pin. So you have to be a little bit careful. But I would like to avoid my king being opened. It's a very interesting game, and white after 15 moves has kept completely equal with me. Which kind of goes to show you that if you play very simple chess at 1500, you know, just like play logical moves, don't blunder, obviously don't cheat. Which I have to tell you, for the first time in the slow run in the 1500 bracket, I've been like, am I misremembering? Like, are people actually this good? You know, you keep a cool head. Also, 1500 is right at the level where I think... No, I don't know. I think on chess.com now they have placement games, so it's not true. But back in the day, you could just sign up for chess.com and be like, I'm 1200. And you weren't. You just weren't 1200. That's not what you were. H3, that is the move. That is the sign of a person that doesn't know what to do. The bad news is I also don't know what to do. That is the bad news. So, what do you do when you don't know what to do? Is it time to take? We would be attacking this, so take. Getting a rook in, and then maybe doubling? That looks kind of promising. So take, rook into c3. You know, I see a lot more above the pay grade of my opponents, but let's just calculate. Let's just go for that. Let's play pawn takes, and I like the move rook c3 followed by rook c8. So if I play rook c3, this queen's gonna go there or there. It could target something over here. I mean, queen c... By the way, queen c3 is also a very reasonable move, trading the queens, but I've already sort of committed to... And I'm just building the pressure on that c2 pawn. Now, queen d2 is weird. Now, the move that I saw ahead of time was knight c4, which... You know, this is... Calculating knight c4 in advance is very challenging. It can come to you here with white because you're like, oh, queen, I can play knight c4. It doesn't actually, I don't think it does anything. Knight c4, I take, they take, I take, attack the bishop, they take, I take, they can take on b7. Which, I mean, if 1500s are this strong, then what can I do? I think I'm still better in that endgame because these two pawns are weaker than my one pawn. Okay. And now I was looking at this move rook c8. Another thing that I was looking at in this position... Make sure I'm not blundering anything. Another thing I was looking at is I'm pinned, which is unpleasant, but I can move now that I'm reinforced. I don't like that I have destabilized my king. So this whole concept of moving the rook away, and now you know your king is the main protector of the position. You just have to be a little bit careful with that. However, my next move is not to take the pawn. It's to take back this. And my next move is either queen f5 or queen a4 or queen c7, triple pressure on that pawn. This almost feels like an isolated pawn at this point. Bishop e7 doesn't take care of the pressing matters of the position. Oh, my opponent wants to go bishop b4. Look how selfish they are. That's what they wanted, but they didn't realize that. So my opponent here was like, bishop e7, I want to go here, they can't take my pawn. Right, but am I going to let you do that? No, I'm going to play here. Or a4. And now I have 3 attackers on this. And you can't protect it, and after I take, you will be in a lot of trouble. Bishop c5 is a cool tactic. It disconnects my rooks. But that doesn't do anything because rook c2 is next, and I'm winning a pawn. And a knight is better than a bishop if, and only if, the position is closed enough that the bishop can't be so useful, and the knight can play on the opposite color complex. A bishop is better than a knight in many situations because it can control so many more squares. But when the knight can avoid the bishop's color complex, light squares, e4, d5, c4, a4, right? And the bishop is not really participating actively in any sort of attack, the knight is better than the bishop. This position is probably around minus 1.5, if I had to estimate. Because not only are we going to win a pawn, we also have attacking ideas. Once we win this pawn becomes a completely isolated long-term problem. And just like the last game, 1500 to 2000, which is why I wrote my book, How to Win at Chess Next Level, converting these positions is what's going to get you to the next level. And playing intelligently, clock pressure, etc. Man, I think at this rate, I'm not going to be able to play another game, but that's all right. I have to have lunch and also watch the World Cup. That is a major development in my life, All right, my opponent's deep in thought. This bishop is useless. D5 can't be played. C2 is about to fall. You can try to go for counterplay with rook to b1. Right on cue. I can just take because the queen's hanging. I think rook c2 is totally reasonable. The queen can go somewhere, but there is obviously nothing wrong with rook c2 at all. And the easiest way to defend this pawn is just to push it. Make a little spike. In the long run, this is called a queenside pawn majority. I have a 2-on-1 on that side of the board. Rook c3, and the queen is literally trapped in the center of the board. White would have to play queen e4 and allow me to play queen takes. Oh my goodness, folks, we are going to win the game with rook c3, queen e4, queen takes f2, king h1, rook takes h3, pawn takes, and queen h2 mate. Now, they don't have to go for that, but this move is absolutely gorgeous, and the queen has nowhere to go. White can also go queen e4, queen f2, king h2, and then I can play rook f3 or rook g3, disconnecting the queen from the defense of the checkmate threat. Queen e4, queen f2, king h2, rook h3 no longer works because the king can take, and then I don't have a way to win that position. But also queen e4, queen f2. Oh man, I can't play knight f6 because they take, and I can't play f5 because queen e6 comes with a check. That's difficult to visualize. Queen e4, queen f2, king h2, f5 just looks like it's winning, but f5 stops defending e6, and queen e6 check. And for the record, even after king h7 there, I might be winning, because after f5, queen e6, king h7, it's really hard to blunder a pawn with a check, but my pawn is protected by my queen, and then we got to analyze that after. No, calculation's very important. Very important. So queen f2 check, and if king h1, rook takes h3. White would play king h1 because they're worried about... Yeah, and now kaboom, kaboom, queen h2. Sacrifice the rook. Gorgeous. Gorgeous game. Saw that in advance. King h2 would have kept the game going for a little bit longer. Vicious. Vicious game. Very nice positional game there. We can pause it there because, I think quality over quantity, if I'm being honest. And I feel like that was a very quality game to show how to play an equal position and apply pressure. Yeah, yeah, let's check out that game. So obviously, if King H2, I was looking at Rook F3 and Rook G3. The top moves of the computer here are Rook G3 putting pressure, Rook F3 disconnecting this because you can't actually take, because I can take and this is pinned. Rook F3, Rook G3, and the third best move according to the computer is actually Pawn to F5. So the fact that my intuition in calculating this attack immediately presented me the three best moves shows a level of chess mastery, right? Purely off of that. Just like, this is a very simple example, but what I'm saying to you is the best players in the world, this is an easy position, but the best players in the world look at any position, and moves like Rook F3, Rook G3, F5, the equivalent comes to mind instantly. They just have a feeling and a sense. F5 looks wrong because you lose this pawn, but after King H7, I realized there's no check. This is still mate. And how about this for a checkmate? Queen G3, and sack the queen, and sandwich the king like this. Brutal, yeah? Incredible. Incredible piece coordination here. Now, as we go through this game, I played the Scandinavian. You know, white played a very solid line I just developed. Bishop takes and queen takes. You don't have to play bishop b4. There is really no reason to give away a bishop for a knight. But I did it because I feel like it's just sort of a natural thing that people do. Knight c6, bishop d6 are both okay. And for the record, you don't even have to castle short side. You're strong enough as a chess player at 1500 to make a smart decision about which way you want to castle. Knight c6 is a very reasonable move, and after rook e1 long castle, we would have had a very back and forth game, because white would have went here, and then I would have went bishop d6, white could have played h3, and I just would have went h5, I would have went like this, boom, g5, I would have started a kingside attack, you know, white would have tried to attack me over here, and, you know, we would have had a fight, you know. Instead, the game was a little bit more chill. I played castles, queen d3, and the computer actually likes the trade. It doesn't like me rejecting the queen trade as much, because it feels like I've lost time. It feels like white got a freebie to get, you know, kind of easy moves, and now I played h6, and I played c5, and the top two moves of the computer in this position are h6 and c5, and that is why you need to be good with your pawn play. h6 is a useful move. It's not just like a wasted tempo. A lot of 800s there would go, I don't get what h6, I mean, why would I play h6, right? Like, but h6, c5 is me building into the pressure on the queen side. Many people would also go wrong in this position. What I have noticed, the biggest difference between a 1600 and a 2200, which I'm including in How to Win at Chess master level, I'm only telling you this, I'm not doing this to promote the books. I am mostly sharing my findings with you that I will ultimately put in book form for you to understand that I've done the research. If there is a person on planet Earth who has studied more games than me, of my subscribers and viewers, both from low elo to high elo to intermediate elo, I'd be really impressed, because I've watched thousands of your games. I have an inbox in the YouTube description where people send me their games. I have 60,000 games in there. Every now and then I just go in there for video inspiration and also for book inspiration, and I analyze games all the time. I'm constantly asking people to submit their games. And I've seen that people at like 1600, they just like take this. They don't even think about it. And the reason I didn't take this is white would go here and threaten both my pawn and to open up my king. So I would have to go knight d7 and white would go here. And I just didn't like this. I didn't like that maybe the rook becomes an attacking piece. For the record, should white take with the pawn or the rook here? This is a question that will get you comfortably beyond 1500. Many people would play pawn takes. Attacks the knight. Knight's got to go. No. Rook takes is 0.4, 0.5. This is 0.9. It's double as bad. Leaving these pawns out to dry, and then after something like this, you very quickly reposition the knight to a better square, and then this is awful. You take the file. Well, first of all, you don't hang your pawn, but then you take the file. White's pawns are completely frozen, and then you play rook d4, rook queen c3, you start eating the pawns up. These are the positional decisions that will make you a lot stronger of a player. I played rook c8. Rook c8 was not the best move. Playing into that sequence of knight takes, rook takes, and coming back and going and then playing with the rook was fine, but we kept the tension, fine, take, and then white played h3. White just didn't know what to do here, and to be honest with you, the position is 0-0-0 if and only if white plays one line. And you know, I'm going to put this in the bonus exercises of How to Win at Chess Next Level. Every one of my books comes with bonus content, online content. It's hosted on Chessly, and in this position, white has only one way to prevent black from very quickly building up pressure, and it's example of piece play and pawn play. You can try to find it yourself. It's not a sexy exercise. It's not like, but you can try to find it. Pause the video. The line is knight takes, and the only move, d5. The idea here is you don't allow this file to open. Yes, you are leaving behind some bad pawns, but you are threatening to open the position, which benefits a diagonal attacker, a line attacker, and both at the same time. Everything changes here. Pawn takes, suddenly queen takes, the knight is hanging. The knight has to move somewhere. Let's say to b6. Wait, there's a pawn hanging on b7. Okay, there's a pawn hanging on c3. There's a pawn hanging on a7. The knight is coming into c4. You're trying to take on c2. Very different type of game. This pawn is going to promote. The bishop is much more powerful. But white didn't notice knight takes, and d5. And since they didn't notice that, and then I would have had to figure something out. Now we transform the position, and we are immediately much better. And I told you here that the evaluation of this position was minus 1.5. It's actually already minus 2. It's already that bad. White maybe had a moment here to play defense. This was the last moment. They could have went for some defending. They could have maybe played rook e3 to pin me. Then I would have went queen c7. And then they could have traded. And still, the best move is to sacrifice the pawn. That's incredible. And go after it with rook d1. And if knight here, you can probably... no one's playing like this. So the transformation for me correctly here would have been to take, drop my knight back, and allow this attack. I didn't want to be attacked. And then here I can play like rook c8. But in general, if white can keep the c file closed, this is a very cool concept. Knight takes, and then d5. Super high level. As I'm looking at this, doesn't pawn to c4 win a pawn? Can't I go here? Queen g3? Yeah. I'm just up a pawn. But the computer for white is finding rook e7. And basically, white just has activity and doesn't care about being down a pawn. Again, a 1500 plays like this against you, it's not a good sign. To me, as I look at this sequence, immediately I would have thought white just blundered a pawn. White just missed c4 with a discovered attack here. And then obviously, if I trade the queens, I'm just very happy. Anyway, I hope that was instructive. That was 40 minutes of very high-level chess for this Elo bracket. That was a cool calculation we did, and ultimately it ends with us getting a big win. This is a very, very tough rating bracket, and it's only going to get harder. I've won 132 games, but I was really challenged in the last couple episodes. Folks, once again, if you have enjoyed the content, check out How to Win at Chess Next Level for the next 3 days, a Barnes & Noble membership, which is free. Plus pre-order 25 at checkout will get you the next book for $8 off. It's not signed, but at least you get a discount. Signed copies are not available anymore. We might bring them back one more time before October, but I can't sell 20,000 books or something that are signed. They do have to be a little bit exclusive. Shout out to those of you that have gotten them so far. Australia, wait a little bit. We are sending you books. You're just a little far away. The rest of the world, I get questions from everywhere, from Africa, South America, Asia Pacific islands as well. Like, I'm doing my best. I'm not a book distributor. It's difficult right now to ship things across the planet. India as well. I'm working on it, guys. All right. If it's not there, it's not because I've forgotten you. Book industry is a little crazy. Yeah, hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna go watch some World Cup. Get out of here.